Hi everyone, it's Lynn. So today we're going to talk about emerald green, and I'm very excited because I love this color. And so this behind me was my first quilt and it was emerald green. So when Julie asked me to do this, I thought, you know, this is a good color. So I made this in probably 90 to 93, that age. Because, and that's when I first started, because I was in grad school in Southern Illinois, and I was studying speech communication. That's what my degree's in. And so the pastor of the church, the pastor's wife of the church that I went to, she was teaching some of the girls in the church how to quilt. And so I missed the class for some reason, so I asked her if she'd help me go shopping to find what I need, and we were going to do this pattern. So this is Eleanor Burns' Quilt in a Day book, The Log Cabin. And so we went to Paducah in Kentucky and and this is before the Quilt Museum opened. I mean, it's a long time ago. And so we went to Paducah in Kentucky, and they have this, and you've heard me talk about it before, but it's a shop called Hancock's of Paducah. And it wasn't the national one. It was just in Paducah. And so, yeah, we went there and we picked out the colors on what we were wanting, and I wanted green. And at the time, polished cotton was the quilting cotton that you saw used. The store has changed through the years because Paducah has become a big quilt town, and houses the National Quilt Museum, stuff like that. But the store used to have more upholstery and garment type of fabrics, and now it's like much more quilting cotton. So anyway, yes, this is where I got this stuff, and I did get it in the 90s. So traditionally, in a log cabin quilt, you would see a red center. So I didn't want a red center in my quilt. I didn't like that big of a change, and I wanted it to be mostly green. So I just went with different, and I still have some of all of this fabric because I bought too much, as you do. I mean, and I just kept it. So I've had it for years. And it's quilting cotton. The company is Waverly, which was really big in the 80s and 90s for home dec as well as for, dresses and stuff like that. And quilting had gone through a revival. I mean, if you think just historically, we saw a lot of quilts, at least in the United States, we saw a lot of quilts, being done throughout the years up until the World War II. And then World War II, rationing was a thing, and they weren't quilting, as well as the women were also kind of joining the workforce. That's when it happened, because the men were off to war, and so the women in the United States joined the workforce. And then when the men came back from war, the women, either stayed in the workforce, or it just wasn't as, we had more manufacturing in the country, and so you saw less quilting fell out of fashion. So in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, quilting was not a fashionable or common thing that women did as much. And so until the 1980s, and that's when you saw the revival of quilting here in the United States. So this was, I guess, a part of that revival. Eleanor Burns was a pretty famous quilter. She's still alive, and she wrote all these books, whatever the pattern was, in a day. That hers was like quilt in a day. So you could get all the fabric, cut it up, and do it in a day. Now, I will be honest with you, this took much longer than a day. It did not, it was not a quilt in a day for me. But you can see behind me how the center of the block, the thing that makes the log cabin block one of the most versatile, best patterns for a beginner, and this is one that I would say like a lot of beginners could start with, is because it's straight line stitching. It really does teach you cutting and pressing. And those three things, you know, cutting, sewing, and pressing, if you get those three down, I think you can do almost any quilt out there. Now, there's different techniques that take a little bit more knowledge and practice and all that kind of stuff, but this is just one of the best patterns, and it's so versatile. In the layout of it. You can do lots of different things to lay out a log cabin quilt. And so this is the barn raising layout. If I move, you can see the center is here, and then it's surrounded by a lighter ring and then a darker ring, and that just kind of goes out when you look at the whole quilt. Log cabin traditionally has a light side and a dark side, and that's what gives you this kind of layout look. This was not scrappy. It was planned. You have a center, and then two sides are light and two sides are dark. You know, if you see right, I mean, it's always backwards to me, but right there, there's your center, and then this is your first ring on the light side, light side, light side, and then you'll see dark side, dark side, dark side. So that's kind of how that works out. So, yeah, this was my first quilt. And I just want you to know, I didn't know what I was doing. So I thought every sewing machine, I sewed this, I didn't have a sewing machine at that point, so I borrowed someone's sewing machine so I could, you know, piece it together. And I was just going by the markings on the bed of the sewing machine. And those markings were not the same markings that was on another sewing machine that I finished it on. So I had some blocks that were bigger, almost an inch bigger than other blocks were that I'd already sewn. So this was a test of my, you know, we all got to start somewhere. Now, you know, I've been quilting for a lot of years now, so I'm a little bit better at that and understand what a 1/4 inch seam was. But I didn't know that, and I kind of jump in at the, you know, jump in full force and just go for it. So that's where we are. But I do want to talk about the color. Now, I don't have, because we talked about this, I don't have a crayon that is this. But I did find a marker that's emerald green, so I thought we would at least, we can cut, oh yeah, that's emerald. This is just a Sharpie marker that I had in my stash. Ooh, that's pretty. And this is week 11. Da-da-da. And that matches almost perfect. Oh, I picked good. Except for Bic calls it Forever Green. Forever Green, that's what Bic calls it. This is a Sharpie Bic. Oh, no, it's not Sharpie, sorry. It's a Bic marker, and it was in some group of markers. I am not allowed to walk through any of the places. Oh, I just love that. Maybe we should do markers next after the crayons. I'm never going to get tired of talking about color. That's the truth. I think this is one of my favorite parts of the whole quilting process. And I think it's one of my favorite parts of the whole quilting process simply because I like imagining what I can do with this. You know what I mean? I like looking at fabric and imagining what I can do with it. So anyway, so that's our color. So we'll look at these three kind of as our emerald green. And this is, all three of these are in the quilt behind me, so you can see. Now, I did look up what emerald green, what they said about emerald green in this book, The Secret Lives of Color again. And I thought this was interesting. So apparently, you know, emeralds have been around for a long time, and the stone emeralds have been around. But what I thought was interesting is it talks about Nero, the Emperor Nero, and how he was enamored by the gemstone emerald. And he had an extensive collection of emeralds, and he actually used them as a prototype of sunglasses so that he could watch the gladiators fight through emeralds. Isn't that crazy? I just thought that was funny. Anyway, so I know when I posted the other day, I said, this reminds me of jewel tone. And I thought, I wonder if you know what I mean when I say jewel tone. So this is an example of jewel tone. Those deep, rich kind of colors. Like this would be a jewel tone. I know that's orange. This would be a jewel tone. And these, I think, go with the emerald green so well. Like, it's just fantastic how well those go together. But I think it's because they're the same intensity, right? You're going to see those. And how many times have I said, like, one of my favorite color combinations is the green, orange, and purple. Like, and here it is again, green, orange, and purple. I'm not going to get tired of this. I'm just not. So that's that jewel tone. So we know purple and orange are always going to go with green. Always going to go. Here's some more jewel tones. I thought this was neat with this bubble kind of look. That's going to go with that. And I think it's because you've got the blues and the greens. Blues and greens are always going to go together. These are some more kind of jewel tone type of things that I think you would have seen. And I like those with this emerald green. Right? My stuff is dusty. The blues kind of with that emerald green. I think I've always just been, and then here's that hot pink or raspberry kind of colors going with the emerald green. I think those look great together. But again, these are kind of that jewel tone. They have deep, rich, intensive color that is packed in there. So that's going to stand up to this dark, deep, rich, green. Here's another. I think I bought this to go in that quilt and it never made it in because it was too busy for me. And I, for a long time, I will be really honest with you, I did not like pink. I really steered clear from pink, both in, and it's because I don't look really good in it. This is more of an orangey coral. It's reading a little pink on the screen, but it's definitely got a more warm aspect to it. And I think it's because, you know, when I was in college or whatever, they did our colors and they said what color you look good in. And I'm an autumn, so I look good in more of those. Now, I just bought this. This is new fabric. I bought it online, and of course, I think I've shown this before, but it's the books with the little animals in it. And I read a lot, so I like that. But I thought, you know what? This goes with that. This would be perfect with that, color kind of thing. Very cool. Love it. Love it. So this is going to pull in more of those taupes and those kind of colors. Oh, wait. Don't want to pack up that. Pack this one up. You should see this down here. It's a mess. I need to clean it out. Now, I did want to pull in some more modern stuff and see if we like the modern stuff with the green. And this does not have, this Tula Pink does not have any of this green in it. Set that aside. But I like this with it, even though it doesn't have that color in it. And I think it's because it's leaning into, black and white's always going to look good with green, with any color. Black and white's going to, I think we discovered that with the black. But this was called Monkey Wrench, which I thought was funny. And it's because he's got a wrench in his tail. She just released a new fabric I saw online the other day, and it was, it may be the first Tula Pink I do not buy. So she's done a thing called Tiny Beasts, and she's made a fabric with snakes on it, and I don't like snakes. I don't like snakes. Now, how much do I like that together? I don't. But I wanted to pull it and see if I thought it'd work, and I do not think it works. It does not work for me. It doesn't work. That green does not like that green, and I think because this has so much more yellow in it, but it's not giving me any room to talk. Like, this does not give me any room to talk to this. I may have to put something in, if I use this, that something would have to go in between that for it to get used. But this does not look, I don't like it. Do y'all like? That's one of the first times I've pulled something, I'm like, I don't like that. Ooh. I do like this, and it doesn't have that green in it at all. Bum, bum, bum. Of course, you know, I love it with orange, though. I love orange. Y'all, orange is going to look good with green all day long. It just will. But that did not. That still doesn't. Oh. Oh, no. 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 Okay, we found it. We found the color combination I do not like. Did you know that would happen? I do like this together, though. Even though that's really dark, I do think that can work. Especially with the orange. Okay. I bought a bunch of this. I don't know what I was going to do with it. Guess we'll need to find that out. Now, this is a part of that... it was a part of a group of fabrics that was sent to me that is art gallery. Sorry, it took me a second. So I just pulled the same set. We've looked at this set before. This all came together. It's all in the same package. So I know I like the yellow with it. I like that with it. Of course, I like that with it. That may be too light. And I like peach and green together. I think that that was like the two color combo in the 80s. That was kind of my favorite. Oh, I forgot to bring. Oh, shoot. I will try to. I was going to show you. So, at my wedding, right? So, the bridesmaid's dress was this color green. It was that dark emerald green. And I only had one bridesmaid, and it was my sister. And so she had this dark emerald green dress. And so it was skin tight on her. It was the tight, you know, it was just form fitting. It looked gorgeous on her. She looked gorgeous. And that was the color of our wedding. And so my wedding was the hottest day of the year. And I think it set records in the town I got married in. And it was so super hot. And so we had the wedding at the church, and then across the street there's this fellowship hall or whatever. And so that's where we had the reception. It was just like cake and punch. It was not a big, like, we didn't feed people. There was no dance. It was just cake and punch. It was an afternoon wedding. So anyway, so my sister had on this tight emerald green dress. And so my husband has a brother. I have a sister, so we just had two. And so my mom had gone across the street, and it was so hot that day. It was so hot. She had fiddled with the thermostat, and she had accidentally turned the heat. I mean, it was like 100 degrees. It was that hot. Everybody was sweating. It's like what it's been here, actually, the last few days. Everybody was sweating. It was just super hot. I think people left the reception because they were like, oh, I can't stand it in the fellowship hall. And so, anyway, my sister said I wasn't there, but when she took off the dress, she was literally stained. Her body was stained emerald green. And she said it was like that for a couple of days. It's like it stained her skin because it was so hot. So that, I always thought that was funny. Anyway, so emerald green is definitely a favorite color. And I love peach with it, but I don't like that. That's just too light for me. This is too delicate, too light for that. I think emerald green is just going to require you to have some real richness in the color for it to stand up next to you. You know. I mean, I don't know that I put all these together with emerald green, but they look okay. This is not my favorite. I think anything with a gray tone in it, I'm just steering clear of. Now, I love this yellows. These mustards with that, I would do that all day long. All day long. All day long. And I like the ruby, or this red, this really deep kind of maroon red. No, this is the first color I think I've ran into that I'm like, no. And I wonder if I have preconceived ideas about it. I wonder if that's kind of the thing. Like, I'm used to seeing this color with certain colors because of the 80s or because of my relationship with it. Now, I love these. These are nice. That's pretty. Now, to me, this is, I didn't even pull Christmas fabric, but traditional Christmas fabric in that. Now, I kind of like this with it, definitely. I'm not, that's okay. It's not, I don't know that I'd go there. I don't know. No. I'd have to have a lot of green for it to be like that. Like just a lot of different greens. I mean, for me to pull a scrappy quilt together with emerald green being so predominant, if it were a predominant color in it, like I would have to have tons of scraps for that to pull off. You could do it, but it's, I don't know. Don't love it. Now that peach holds up. Now look at that. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so let's look at this. This peach holds up against this and this one doesn't. Do you see the difference? Do you see it? Like this has just got enough intense color in it that it holds up against that green, whereas this one is so pale, this one just clashes to me. I just don't think that, now this goes with this really well. Like I'm okay with these two. But that peach holds up. It definitely holds up. Oh, I kind of like that with it. I kind of like this, not this. And then let's pull this red back. Now that's an interesting look. That definitely has me looking at that a little bit differently. Kind of like that combo. Do you see how plain with the colors and just, and I know this is really hard to do in a quilt store. It really is. But I will, and I have been known to just pull bolts, and especially, I try to go in when there's not tons of people. Like you don't want to do this on Saturday where there's like tons of people in there. But I'll pull bolts and just kind of let them sit together and then talk to me. Like, do these want to live together? And part of me goes, yeah, they do. These want to live together. They would be okay in a block together and in a quilt together. So I always, and I've said this before, but I really think if you are testing out colors, you should really consider doing a test block. Do a test block. Buy extra fabric. I wanted to see how, now that I think is smart. Is that not smart looking? Look at that. I like it. I like it. And wait till you see what else I'm going to put with it. That looks really good. That's nice. That is nice. I like that. The lemon pulls it all in, you know what I mean? Even though there's no gray really in this, the lemons just pull that in. And I think it's because you've got this really deep, stark contrast with the green and the yellow together. And then you get a softer yellow-gray, pull that in. That may be, I bought this to make a tablecloth out of it. And I may make napkins. That'll look good. And I think, okay, so I do make napkins. I make napkins and I make tablecloths because I like to change them out and they get dirty and whatever. So I think if you make a set of green napkins, a set of red napkins, if you're making napkins, if you make a set of green napkins, just plain green, you can use this like this for summer, or you can also use it for Christmas. Just have a Christmas tablecloth. So green napkins go a long way with me. The other color and I do have a set of emerald green napkins. And the other color that I have a ton of napkins, the same color, is red. Because red's like Valentine's Day, it's like Christmas, it's like January. You know, if you do like snowmen or something like that in January. So yeah, red and green like go a long way with me in interior. Well, I always look for new stuff that I can sew because, you know, not that I don't enjoy making quilts. I make quilts all the time, but I look for new stuff that I can sew because I like to think of the, oh, I like that. This is just a cute print. It's got a little girl. I use this in the New York Beauty one. And see, to me, that's not even, those aren't Christmas fabrics, but that'll read Christmas all day. That'll read Christmas all day. But I do love this. Oh, it may go good with that too. Look at that. And it's not Christmas. But yeah, red and green. I look for other stuff to sew just because you think, well, you know, how many quilts can I have hanging out? Oh, I like, this is back to those jewel colors. Look at this. Yeah, look at that. That's back to those jewel colors. That's just going to really pop. And I think if you brought that kind of raspberry color from this in there. And this is when gold foil looking kind of colors were big. Of course, this is the 80s, and those are back because you see Cotton and Steel and who else does it? Ruby Red Society, which are the same people, but this is that book one. I think this may need to all live together. I love this fabric. I haven't cut into it yet because I don't know what I want to do with it yet. But it's just got all the, you know, old books and stuff. Oh, these got put to the bottom, but I'll bring them out. So I bought out some, thinking this will go off. Thinking these would look good. And I do like that bright. That may make some of those other greens be happy with me. This is one of those Stonehenge kind of fabrics with the Irish Celtic knots. I guess it's not Irish totally, but Celtic knots, which I thought were pretty. So my sister decided that we needed to get our DNA whatever checked. So we had our DNA checked, and I found out I was more Irish than I realized. I didn't think I was Irish. I thought I was just English and Welsh, and so, but I'm Irish and Scottish and all those little islands right there. This is that 70s kind of look to me. This would look good with that gray polka dot that I threw down there, I think. Let's look. Ooh. Yes. Yes, look at that. Even though this is more olive, I don't hate it. Maybe not that. But I don't hate it. That gray looks good with that. That kind of, I like the way that blends together. Okay, the last set of fabrics I have to look at are these. And this is that panel I bought not too long ago. But I thought, you know, this would ground some of these little print kind of things. That would look good with it. If you needed a solid, that would look good. Now it's going to really stark contrast. That's a really stark contrast. That may be too dark with all this cream going in. It doesn't not work, but it would totally depend on the block that you put it in. It definitely would power it. If you put just a little bit, maybe a little stripe, wouldn't look bad. But if you put the whole thing, it would definitely, that wins on the power battle. So, oh my gosh. We have not ran into one that I was like, oh, I don't like that at all. Not my favorite. So I think that's interesting that this is not working for me at all. Doesn't work. Too light. So the depth of the color really, I think, impacted us on that. And maybe what we put it with. So, interesting. Emerald green. You tricked me. I thought I liked you with everything. But I don't know that I do, because you're a really strong color. You're really... And I did think it was funny that Nero decided I mean, can you imagine having emeralds that big? It is one of my favorite gemstones. Like, I do love a pretty emerald. I do. I like emeralds. They are my favorite gemstone. So, anyway. Well, thanks for joining me for us talking about emeralds. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let other people know what we're talking about. We're talking about color. And catch back with us next when we find out the next color we're going to talk about. And we will see you later. Bye.